Okay, so this has not been going the way that I had anticipated. I wanted to record it on my iPad so that I could annotate while I was talking, and then that wasn't working and it needed to be on it. You know what? You don't care. All right, so Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 3. I guess I'm now going to read this to you and then go back. All right, maybe I'll try voices. I don't know. All right, Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 3. Enter King Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. So at this point, you have to remember Hamlet has figured out that his uncle is guilty using the play in Scene 2. His uncle calling for the light and being upset and kind of storming out of the production. His mom was seemingly innocent. She didn't really know what was going on. She didn't have that kind of reaction. And we also know that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are friends of Hamlet's from school, but they're really there to spy on Hamlet for the king and queen, kind of helping with that deceit and spying motifs that we've had kind of throughout the play. So here, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are having a conversation with the king, and the king says, I like him not, nor stands it safe with us, to let his madness range. Therefore, prepare you. I your commission will forthwith dispatch, and he to England shall along with you, the terms of our estate may not endure hazard so near as doth hourly grow out of his brows. So the king is like, I cannot handle Hamlet's behavior. He's gone crazy. I am sending him to England with you. Okay? We're gonna just get him out of the way. Guildenstern says, we will ourselves provide, most holy and religious fear it is, to keep those many bodies safe that live and feed upon your majesty. So once again, kind of fake friends with that we will always provide, like we will ourselves provide, like we'll do what you're asking behind Hamlet's back. Rosencrantz then states, the single and peculiar life is bound with all the strength and armor of the mind, to keep itself from annoyance, but much more that spirit upon whose weal depends and rests the lives of many. The cess of majesty dies not alone, but like a gulf doth draw what nears it with it, or it is a massy wheel fixed on the summit of the highest mount, to whose huge spokes 10,000 lesser things are mortised and adjoined, which, when it fails, each small annexment, petty consequence, attends the boisterous ruin. Never alone did the king sigh, but with a general groan. So basically, Rosencrantz is being a sycophant, or if you do not know that word, like kind of a suck up, all right, or a kiss ass. Excuse my language. And he is kind of like, we are going to do what you need, my liege. And then he kind of says at the end, never alone did the king sigh, but with a general groan. And we have, a little play on words there, but never is the king to be left alone or stressed or worried. And there's always going to be someone there to kind of like stress for him or deal with his issues. So the king says, arm you, I pray you, to this speedy voyage, for we will fetters put about this fear, which now goes too free-footed. Rosencrantz says, we will haste us, and then they exit. And then in comes Polonius. Another person that could fit the description of a sycophant. If you didn't know that word now, I would love for that to be one of the words that you learn from this unit. Okay, because there's a lot of them. So Polonius says, my lord, he's going to his mother's closet. Behind the arras I'll convey myself. To hear the process I'll warrant shall tax him home. And, as you said, and wisely was it said, 'tis meet that some more audience than a mother, since nature makes them partial, should overhear the speech of vantage. Fare you well, my liege, I'll call you ere you go to bed, and tell you what I know. Thanks, my dear Lord. Polonius exits. Not you, Siri. Go away.
To who?
No, Siri, shh.
To who?
Siri, stop.
Unfortunately, I'm unable to perform that task.
Apparently, Siri can't stop. Can't stop, won't stop. Anyway, sorry, it's way too late for this. Anyway, we have Polonius being like, my lord, you who wisely have said things, sycophant. But he also says, listen, he's going to talk to his mom. Don't do anything crazy yet. I'm going to spy behind the arras, which is a curtain, and I'll tell you everything he says to his mom. Because you know what? Moms can get it out of their sons. And the king's like, okay, whatever. And then Polonius exits. And now we get a soliloquy from the king. And this is a very important soliloquy because it's going to set a lot of things in motion and cause some kind of complications with our revenge scheme. All right? So the king says, oh, my offense is rank. It smells to heaven. It hath the primal eldest curse upon it, a brother's murder. Pray can I not? Though inclination be as sharp as will, my stronger guilt defeats my strong intent. And, like a man to double business bound, I stand in pause where I shall first begin, and both neglect. What if this cursed hand were thicker than itself with brother's blood? Is there not rain enough in the sweet heavens to wash it white as snow? Where too serves mercy, but to confront the visage of offense? And what's in prayer but this twofold force? To be forestalled ere we come to fall? Or pardoned being down? Then I'll look up, my fault is past. But oh, what form of prayer can serve my turn? Forgive me my foul murder. That cannot be, since I am still possessed of those effects for which I did the murder. My crown, my own ambition, and my queen. May one be pardoned and retain the offense? In the corrupted currents of the world, offenses gilded may shove by justice. And oft 'tis seen the wicked prize itself buys out the law, but 'tis not so above. There is no shuffling. There the actions lie in his true nature, and we ourselves compelled, even to the teeth and forehead of our faults, to give an evidence. What then? What tests? Try what repentance can. What can it not? Yet what can it when one cannot repent? O wretched state! O bosom black as death! O limeed soul, that struggling to be free art more engaged. Help, help, angels, make a sigh. Make us a bow, stubborn knees and heart with strings of steel. Be soft as sinews of the newborn babe. All may be well. And he kneels. So, what the heck is he saying? Well, let's go back. So, we are now getting from Claudius his admission to his guilt. Okay, oh, my offense is rank, it smells to heaven. So, we're getting that decay motif. It hath the primal eldest curse upon it. We're going to get a lot of like allusions to madness and guilt, or not really allusions, but like plays with madness and guilt. But here he's talking about the murder, right? Like a brother's murder. Pray can I not? So Claudius is trying to pray for forgiveness for his sins. My stronger guilt defeats my strong intent. Like, yeah, I feel like I thought I had a good reason for this, but like my guilt is eating me aside and I can't go on like this. What if this cursed hand were thicker than itself with brother's blood? We kind of get this idea of like the bloody hands. And I think you guys read Macbeth's sophomore year. So there's is kind of a play with like the out damn spot and the blood on the hands and constantly trying to wash away the sins. But like psychosomatically, you still see the blood even if they're clean. So then, is there not rain enough in the sweet heavens? And what's in prayer but this twofold force? Oh, what form of prayer? Like, he's begging to have the ability to pray and ask for forgiveness. But he says, what am I supposed to say? Forgive me my foul murder? Well, I can't. Because I still have all the things that I benefited from. Like, I killed my brother, and I still have his crown, his own his ambition, and his queen. So he's like, how can I ask for forgiveness for killing him if I'm still enjoying the fruits of that labor? So he can't pray for his sins. And we know from the ghost that if someone dies and they're kind of like not had this chance to ask for forgiveness or go through this kind of confession, they may end up in purgatory, which would be like this eternal suffering, and it's a whole thing we kind of touched on earlier. He says, "Oh wretched state, oh bosom black as death, oh liming soul." So we're getting these apostrophes, just these calls to nothing but everything, just the guilt manifesting off of him. How oh stubborn knees, bow, heart with strings. He just so desperately wants to pray, and then he kind of falls to his knees. And then enter Hamlet. Okay? So remember, Hamlet's all right, I know my uncle is guilty, and I'm gonna kill him. Hamlet says, "Now, might I do it? Ah, now he is a praying, and now I'll do it." He draws his sword. "And so he goes to heaven? And so am I revenged? That would be scanned. A villain kills my father, and for that I, his sole son, do the same villain send to heaven? Why, this is higher in salary, not revenge. He took my father grossly, full of bread, with all his crimes broad blown, as flush as May, and now his audit stands, who knows, saves heaven. But in our circumstance and course of thought, 'tis heavy with him. And am I then revenged to take him in the purging of his soul, when he is fit and seasoned for his passage? No, up sword, and no, thou are a more horrid hint." He sheaths his sword. "When he is drunk asleep, or in his rage, or in the incestuous pleasure of his bed, at game, a swearing, or about some act that he has no relish of salvation in it, then trip him, that his heels may kick at heaven, and that his soul may be as damned and black as hell. Whereto it goes, my mother stays. This physique but prolongs thy sickly days." Hamlet exits. And then the king rises and is like, "My words fly up, my thoughts remain below. Words without thoughts never the heaven go." So we get this play on like dramatic irony, because Hamlet's all right, here's Claudius. He's alone. He is unguarded. He is kind of oblivious to what's going on around him. This is my chance to kill him. But Hamlet says, well, he's praying, which plays into our appearance versus reality, because dramatic irony, we know that Claudius is literally saying, "I can't pray," but Hamlet is like, "Oh, if I kill him now, he's going to go to heaven. And my dad, who was killed without the ability to confess his sins, is stuck in purgatory for the rest of his life. So I'm not even really getting revenge for him. If anything, I'm like a murderer for hire, and like not a good one, because I'm sending my uncle to heaven." And so we get this kind of, and I mentioned it at the beginning of the play, this like procrastination, right? Like Hamlet gets so close to being like, now is the time. But then he always tends to find a reason why he can't pull the trigger, metaphorically, obviously with a knife and stabby, but same concept. So, he's going through how he wants to get this revenge, but like he doesn't want to hurt his father more, hurt himself, and like help his uncle in the process. So he basically says, "All right, I'm going to wait until a moment when my uncle's doing something sketchy and sinful." So it could be, in a drunken rage tonight at a party, or it could be when he's sleeping with my mother, which is like inappropriate, or, he could be swearing or acting out, just basically something unholy. And that's when I'm going to get it. And so he says, "My mother stays this physique, but prolongs thy sickly days." we get this little bit of foreshadowing, and then Hamlet exits, and then of course to kind of cap off our dramatic irony, Claudius is like, well, couldn't do it, couldn't pray. My words fly up, my thoughts remain below. Words without thoughts never heaven go. We get that lovely little rhyming couplet that kind of lets us know a scene is ending. So, and it also wraps up that dramatic irony. Like, we know for a fact Claudius wasn't praying. So that was the perfect moment for Hamlet to kill him. But alas, he procrastinated and now he's missed his window. Okay? So that ends scene 3. It's pretty quick. All right. And then scene 4 comes into play. And scene 4, because remember, scene 4 is the last of the scenes in Act 3. And we know, based off of our Shakespearean tragedy, Act 1 is exposition and learning those details about the conflict and the characters and the setting and all of that. And we haven't forgotten that Fortinbras is out there also trying to get revenge, and that Laertes is out there in theory in France studying, and Ophelia's out there brokenhearted, and Polonius is plotting, and Claudius is plotting, and Gertrude is kind of like, I don't know what's going on, but my son is, upset. I need to check in. So there's just all of these kind of balls juggling in the air. And that all kind of started to build in Act 2 with all of the rising action. And now we've hit Act 3. Like, we are about to just hit full kind of emotional turmoil. And there's going to be kind of a turning point where, like, we can't go back. And that is coming in this next scene, scene 4. All right. So we're going to look at Act 3, scene 4. I will, ideally tonight, but if not tomorrow during the bus ride, I will also post annotated pictures, or like pictures of the annotated pages, because I know I'm kind of like talking fast or slow. Honestly, I don't know. And I just want to make sure you're getting everything, so I will also post that. Okay. Scene 4. Enter Queen and Polonius, aka Sycophant. Would help if I was on the right page. There we go. Polonius. He will come straight. Look, you lay home to him. Tell him his pranks have been too broad to bear with, and that your grace hath screened and stood between much heat and him. All silence me even here, pray you be round with him. Hamlet within, Mom, 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 Mother, as a teenager does. Queen, I'll warrant you, fear me not, withdraw, I hear him coming. And Polonius hides behind the curtain. So basically Polonius is like, tell him you're annoyed with like all of his crazy behavior, and you're catching a lot of heat from Claudius about it, and it's time he kind of shapes up, and he's like, and I'll go just kind of creepily stare behind listen behind the curtain. So he hides. Enter Hamlet. Now, mother, what's the matter? Hamlet, thou hast thy father much offended. Hamlet, mother, you have my father much offended. Oh, if there is ever a pun and play on words right here that is just chef's kiss from Shakespeare, let me tell you, because the queen is like, you've offended Claudius, your father, aka stepfather, aka uncle. And Hamlet says, Mom, think you're the one that offended good old dad, aka King Hamlet, who was murdered, aka you then married his brother 2 months later. So Hamlet is about to start spitting some fire at his mom. But remember, the ghost told him you cannot punish her. She has to be left to the gods or the heavens. But so we got this just, little spicy moment between them. Come, you answer with an idle tongue. Go, you question with a wicked tongue. Why, how now, Hamlet? What's the matter? Have you forgot me? No, by the rood, not so. You're the queen, your husband's brother's wife, And would it were not so, you are my mother. So they have this kind of stichomythia that's happening where it's kind of like each sentence is jumping off the other one. Like, come, you answer me with an idle tongue, and then he flips it back like, oh, you're questioning with a wicked tongue. But how now, Hamlet? Well, what's the matter now? Like, it's just this kind of structure with how they're speaking and overall rude tone, right? And then he makes that comment, you're the queen, your husband's brother's wife. He has no problem continuously mentioning that, like, you married my uncle. So, I wish you weren't my mom. The queen says, nay, then I'll set those to you that can speak. Oh, come, come, sit you down. You shall not budge. You go not till I set you a glass, where you may see the inmost part of you. What wilt thou do? Thou wilt not murder me. Help! Ho! And so she thinks that Hamlet is kind of like super aggressive and that maybe he's like threatening her. And when she says like, help, ho, good old sycophant Polonius behind the curtains like, what, ho, help? Kind of like, I'm here. And Hamlet says, how now? A rat dead for a ducat. Dead. And then he stabs through the curtain. Okay, thrusting his rapier through the arras. And Polonius says, oh, I am slain. I love a good person who is dying and tells us that they're dying, okay? So we get this kind of dramatic irony and just, oh, the craziness, but he's stabbing through the curtain because he thinks Claudius is the one spying on him, and he thinks like, oh, this is my moment. I'm catching Claudius in his guilty behavior. I'm going to stab him through the curtain, dead, and then plop, out falls Polonius. Oh, I am slain. And the queen, oh me, what hast thou done? And he says, nay, I know not. Is it the king? So, like, he's like, wait, I don't know. Was that not the king? And the queen's like, what a rash and bloody deed is this? Basically saying, like, you just, like, took action without thinking and killed Polonius. So, it's the exact opposite behavior that Hamlet's been doing this entire time, right? Like, Hamlet has been so concerned with making plans and everything being perfect, and then he just suddenly decides to go on a whim and stab through a curtain, and now he's killed the wrong person. And so he, the queen is like, oh, what a rash and bloody deed is this? Basically like, you're crazy. And Hamlet's like, a bloody deed, almost bad, good mother, as kill a king and marry with his brother. So now Hamlet's just throwing it all out there. He's like, well, if I'm guilty, I'm just going to make sure I'm taking everything down with me. So he basically says to his mom, like, yeah, okay, you want to say I did something horrible, but like, you're just as guilty, mom. Like, you guys killed dad and then you married his brother. And the queen is like, wait, killed a king? Remember, the queen doesn't actually know that happened. And Hamlet says, aye, lady, it was my word, as he's like pulling the dead body from behind the curtain. Thou wretched, rash, intruding fool, farewell. I take thee for thy better. Take thy fortune, thou findest to be too busy in some danger. And to the queen, he says, leave wringing of your hands, peace, sit you down, and let me wring your heart. So he basically is like, well, sucks that I stabbed Polonius, but like, he kind of deserved it, so I don't really feel bad about it. Like, he's an idiot, he loves to call him the fool or talk about him, but he's like, it's fine, like, this is what he deserved. He's like, but mom, I have some things to say to you, which plays into all of our, like, guilt and, like, So he says, for so I shall, it has been made of It has been made of penetrable stuff. If damned custom have not brazed it so that it be proof and bulwark against sense. And the queen's like, what did I do? What have I done? That thou darst wag thy tongue and noise so rude against me. Like, what did I do to deserve this? And Hamlet is now just going full crazy, okay? Like, we are fully descended into madness. And he says, such an act that blurs the grace and blush of modesty, calls virtue hypocrite, takes off the rose from the fair forehead of an innocent love and sets a blister there, makes marriage vows as false as Dicer's oaths. Oh, such a deed. So, like, let's just break this down for a second, okay? He's basically saying, like, she has been immodest. He's basically saying her quote unquote virtue, hypocritical, not actually virtuous. He's saying that, like, basically she's stripped the roses from the fair head of the innocent, and instead, like, given them thorns, making marriage vows that were false as dicers' oaths, so gamblers. Okay. Oh, such a deed is from the body of contraction plucks. Thy very soul and sweet religion makes a rhapsody of words. Heaven's face does glow o'er this solidity, and compound mass with heated visage as against the doom. Is thou sick, or if is thought sick at the act? So he's basically like leading, like telling her all of this stuff. Remind you, the queen didn't know what was going on. So this is a lot. Like, her son just murdered someone. She's being told that, like, her current husband is a bad dude. Her previous husband was murdered. Like, she's getting yelled at for stuff. So she's just like, what are you talking about? What act that roars so loud and thunders in the index? He says, look here upon this picture and on this, the counterfeit presentment of two brothers. See what a grace was seated on this brow. Hyperion's curls, the front of Jove himself, an eye like Mars to threaten and command, a station like the herald Mercury, new, lighted on a heaven-kissing hill, a combination and a form indeed where every god did seem to set his seal, to give the world assurance of a man. This was your husband. Look you now what follows. Here's your husband like a mildewed ear blasting his wholesome brother. There we go. Sorry. Blasting his wholesome brother. Have you eyes? Could you on this fair mountain leave feed and batten on this moor? Have you eyes? Like, he's like, are you blind? Do you not see what happened? Do you not see that your husband died mysteriously and that his brother just showed up ready to take the reins? And batten on this moor. You cannot call it love, for at your age you can't. The heyday in the blood is tamed. Also, he's kind of just like, Mom, you old. So, like, let's not say that you're lusting and all in love and all, romantic. Like, this is just an arrangement. All right. It's humble and waits upon judgment. And what judgment would step from this, since sure you have, else could you have not emotion. But sure that sense is apoplexed, for madness would not err, nor sense to ecstasy was never so enthralled. But it reserves such quantity of choice to serve in such a difference. What devil was it that thus hath cozened you at hoodman blind? Eyes without feeling, feeling without sight, ears without hands or eyes, smelling sands all, or but a sickly part of one true sense, could not so mope. Oh, shame, where is thy blush, rebellious hell? If thou canst mutiny in a matron's bones to flaming youth, let virtue be as wax and melt in your own fire. Proclaim no shame when the compulsive ardor gives the charge, since frost itself as actively doth burn and reason panders will. So he's just laying it in on her, okay? Just dagger after tongue. Like, remember he made the metaphor, like, I will speak in daggers but use none. Like, he is saying things that he knows are cutting and hurting his mother. All right? And the queen finally has, like, breaks and says, "Oh, Hamlet, please speak no more." Thou turnest my eyes into my very soul, and there I see such black and green spots, and will not leave their tinct. So she's admitting now, like, if everything you're saying is true, like, the guilt is washing over me. Like, I'm mortified and I'm miserable and I'm upset. Like, I can't even process it. And he says, nay, but to live in the rank sweat of an enseamed bed, stewed in corruption, honeying and making love over the nasty sty. Ugh. He's literally like talking about their incestuous bed and the lovemaking between his mother and Claudius, and how basically how gross it is, and that like the purity of the marriage bed is decaying, and like every time that they have any kind of relations, it's just deteriorating and deteriorating the relationships she's had prior that were pure. Oh, speak to me no more. These words like daggers enter in my ears. A little simile. But also a parallel to his soliloquy earlier when he was like, I'll speak daggers but not use them. Little recall on Shakespeare's part. No more, sweet Hamlet. Like, she still loves her son. She's like, please, please, like, stop. You're killing me with your words. And he says, a murderer and a villain, a slave that is not 20th part the tithe of your precedent lord, a vice of kings, a cutpurse of the empire, and the rule that from a shelf the precious diadem stole and put in his pocket. And the queen's like, no more! A king of shreds and patches. So as he's continuing to kind of harp on his mom, she is hysterical at this point. And then who shows up? The ghost. Okay, the ghost of the king. And we can hypothesize that this is probably because the ghost gave very specific instructions. Don't hurt your mom. Leave her to be judged by heaven. And like here, he is hurting her. Whether he physically is intending to do it or not, like she is like dying inside just from like sadness. So the ghost enters, but only Hamlet can see the ghost. Save me and hover over me with your wings, you heavenly guards. What would your gracious figure? So when he's saying that and he's like, oh, like, ghost, you've come to help me. And the queen's like, lass, he's mad. Like, she doesn't see who he's talking to. All right. Do you not come your tardy son to chide that lapsed in time and passion? Let's go by the important acting of your dread comment. Oh, so he's admitting, like, I'm sorry. Are you here to I have the hiccups now. Flippin' perfect. He says, like, oh, I'm sorry. Are you here to chide me because I was procrastinating? And the ghost says, do not forget, this visitation is but to whet thy almost blunted purpose, but look amazement on thy mother sits. Oh, step between her and her fighting soul. Oh, mother God. Okay. Oh, step between her and her fighting soul, conceit and weakest body, strongest work, speak to her, Hamlet. So the ghost is like, hey, hey, hey. The curse words I want to say right now. Okay. All right. I tried holding my breath. All right. He's like, hey, Dad. Hey, Dad. Oh, are you here because, like, I haven't gotten what I was supposed to do done yet, and I've been procrastinating. Like, are you here to call me out? And the ghost is like, no. Do not forget, this visitation is but to whet thy almost blood. Basically, like, step between her and her fighting. I'm just gonna pause for a second and maybe try some water. Oh, I don't know that pause is an option. So, guess we just keep going. All right. Sorry about the hiccups, guys. Um, he basically says, do not forget this visitation is but to whet thy almost blunted purpose, but look, amazement on thy mother sits, oh step between her and her fighting soul, conceit and weakest body, strongest work, speak to her, Hamlet. Like, he's kind of reminding him, like, hey, you have to stop hurting her, like, talk to her. Like, really break it down, make sure she understands. And there is still, like, a scenario where this is salvageable. Hamlet says, how is it with you, lady? And the queen, who literally thinks he's crazy now because he's talking to a ghost that she can't see, says, alas, I'm trying water again. Alas, how is it with you? That you do bend your eye on vacancy, and with the incorporeal air do hold discourse, forth at your eyes your spirits wildly peep, and as sleeping soldiers in the alarm, your bedded hair, like life and excrement, start up and stand at an end, O gentle sun. So she's kind of like, sweetheart, you're a mess. You're unkempt. You're talking to people that are not there. And you've got crazy eyes. Like, I'm very concerned. O gentle sun, upon the heat and flame of thy distemper, sprinkle cool patience. Where do you look on? Like, we gotta find a way to kind of calm you down a little bit. So he says, on him, look how pale he glares. His form and cause conjoined, preaching to stones would make them capable. And then he's like pointing out this ghost that is not there to her. And he looks at the ghost. Do not look upon me, lest with the piteous action you convert my stern effects. Then what I have to do will want true color, tears perchance for blood. To whom do you speak this? The queen is once again saying, like, I don't know who you're talking to, sweetheart. And he says, do you see nothing there? And Gertrude says, nothing at all. Yet all that is, I see. So basically she's like, I don't see anyone. Okay, so she doesn't see a ghost. But she is saying, what I do see is my son has lost his mind. And I am genuinely concerned. Why, look you there, look how it steals away. My father in his habit as he lived, look where he goes even now out at the portal. And like the ghost exits, dressed in like, his everyday king clothes. The queen says, this is the very coinage of your brain. This bodiless creation ecstasy is very cunning in. So she is kind of like, you've gone crazy, probably from grief, and you're now like manifesting your dad in your mind. And that's what is causing this. Hamlet says, ecstasy? My pulse, as yours doth temperately keep time, and makes his healthful music, it is not madness that I have uttered. Bring me to the test, and I the matter will reword, which madness would gamble from. So he's like, actually, I'm not mad. I've been playing mad. But like, go ahead and test me. Like, I'm sane as anyone. Mother, for love of grace, lay not that flattering unction to your soul, that not your trespass, but my madness speaks. It will be but skin and film the ulcerous place, while rank corruption mining all within infects unseen. So he's comparing Claudius and like Claudius's power in this kingdom to like a disease or a rotted being that's just festering and like killing off the things that it touches and like ruining and infesting everything, right? Confess yourself to heaven, right? He does not want his mom to like go down. So he's like, confess yourself to heaven. Repent what's past and avoid what is to come. And do not spread the compost on the weeds to make them ranker. Forgive me this my virtue, for in the fatness of these pursy times, virtue itself of vice must pardon beg, yet curb and woo for leave do him good. So he's like, listen, mom, you need to repent. You need to ask for forgiveness. And you know what you need to do? Not spread the decaying weed, aka Claudius and his seed, any further. So basically, do not sleep with Claudius after you've repented your sins. O Hamlet, thou hast cleft my heart in twain. Ugh, throw away the worser part of it and live the pure with the other half. So basically, she's like, you have broken my heart with all of this. And he's like, that's okay. If it's in two pieces, ideally good and bad. So just chuck the bad part, aka Claudius, keep the good pure part that was like loyal to dad. And live the pure with the other half, good night, but go not to my uncle's bed. Don't go there. Assume a virtue if you have it not. That monster custom who all sense doth eat, of habits devil and angel yet in this, that to the use of actions fair and good, he likewise gives a frock or livery, that aptly is put on. Refrain tonight, and that shall lend a kind of easiness to the next abstinence. The next more easy, for use almost can change the stamp of nature and ether. So he's like, don't sleep with Uncle Claudius tonight. And not sleeping with him tonight will make it easier every time forth when you reject him. Like, it'll become a habit. Like, you'll get used to not having sex with him, okay? So, great habit to build. For use almost can change the stamp of nature and ether, the devil or throw him out with a wondrous potency. One more good night, and when you are desirous to be blessed, all blessing beg of you for this same Lord. And then he points to Polonius, because remember, he did kill him. He says, I do repent, but heaven hath pleased it so to punish me with this, and this with me, that I must be their scourge and minister. I will bestow him, and will answer well the death I gave him. So again, good night. I must be cruel only to be kind. There's a whole song that I would love to sing to you right now, but this paradox is like the cruel to be kind. Maybe we'll listen to it on Monday. The idea though, he's like, listen, I'm sorry that I killed Polonius. But, like, didn't heaven and the fates kind of have it happen? Like, I don't know if I'm, like, truly in the wrong here. He's like, but it's okay. I'll take care of him. This bad begins and worse remains behind. One word more, good lady. So basically he had said, like, I'm sorry that I was so harsh with you, but, like, I had to do it to save you, okay? The only way to be kind to you was to be cruel, so you'd listen. She says, what shall I do? Well, not this by no means that I bid you do. Let the bloat king tempt you again to bed, pinch wanton on your cheek, call you his mouse, and let him for a pair of reachy kisses or paddling in your neck with his damned fingers, make you ravel all this matter out, that I essentially am not in madness, but mad in craft. There 'twere good you let him know, for who that but a queen, fair, sober, wise, would from a paddock, from a bat, a gib, such dear concernings hide. Who would do so? No, in despite of sense and secrecy, unpeg the basket of the house's top, let the birds fly, and like the famous ape, try the conclusions in the basket creep, and break your own neck down. So he's like, listen, you gotta get a little flirty with the king, get him making some poor choices, but, like, don't let him tempt you. Like, you gotta hold your ground, but I need you to still be a little frisky so that he technically commits, like, some sinning. And then I also need you to tell him, like, I'm actually not crazy, and that you're good with, like, me being here. And the queen says, be thou assured, if words be made of breath, and breath of life, I have no life to breathe what thou hast said to me. So she's admitting, like, I'm kind of in shock right now. Like, this is a lot. And he says, I must to England, you know that. So, you know, he's heard that he's probably getting kicked out to England. And the queen says, Alack, I'd forgotten, 'tis so concluded on. And he says, there's letters sealed, and my two schoolfellows, whom I will trust as I will adders fanged, they bear the mandate. They must sweep my way and marshal me to knavery. Let it work, for 'tis the sport to have the engineer hoist with his own petard, and it'll shall go hard, but I will delve 1 yard below their minds, and blow them at the moon. Oh, 'tis most sweet when in one line two crafts directly meet. This man shall set me packing. So basically he's like, I, like with the adder's fanged, he's kind of referencing like himself almost as like a snake, ready to bite. And then he has this plan, and he knows that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are betraying him. So he's going to use their, this quote unquote trip to England to kind of manipulate some things to get his plan to fall into place. He says about Polonius, I'll lug the guts, which is that example of metonymy where instead of saying like the corpse or the body, he just says the guts, but we know that he means the whole person. I'll lug the guts into the neighbor room. Mother, good night, indeed. This counselor is now most still, most secret, and most grave, who was in life a foolish, prating knave. Even in his last moments, as Polonius is lying there dead, Hamlet just has to jab it a little more and be like, look at your right hand guy. Even now, lying here still, gosh, he was an idiot. A foolish, prating knave. Like, he kind of deserved this. Come, sir, to draw toward an end with you. Good night, mother. And he literally exits, just tugging Polonius's dead body behind him. So now we've reached the end of Act 3. We know that as far as like hills go, we had the rising action. Now we have like this like climactic moment where he thinks he's killing Claudius. He's killed Polonius. So now Hamlet has committed a mortal sin and he's killed someone, wronged someone. Still so much spying, still so much deceit, still so much procrastination. And now things are just going to start to kind of tumble. We've got the falling action in Act 4. And we're all kind of leading to the big tragedy in Act 5. So Act 4 in and of itself actually moves pretty quickly. But the big thing is, just looking at those decision moments, right? Hamlet kills Claudius in scene 3 when he thinks he's praying, and like everyone just lives happily ever after. And like Hamlet has to ask for forgiveness, but like he probably would have gotten it. But he didn't. Or like Claudius wanted to send him away, but then Polonius convinced him not to yet. And like everyone just keeps kind of doing the exact opposite of what is necessary for them to live like happily ever after, which is I guess why it is a Shakespearean tragedy. So yeah, my video is gonna end there for Act 3, and then tomorrow in the hotel, or if I decide to stay up a little bit later, we'll see, I will record one for Act 4. Sorry for my excitement, but when you're teaching to a computer screen in your apartment by yourself, a little weird. Like I said, though, I will post the video, but then I will also, as soon as possible, post annotated pages from those scenes so you can kind of go back and see what I was marking and referencing while I was reading. All right. Hope everyone has a great... Is tomorrow Wednesday? Wednesday.